So let me make the next introduction, which I was not slated to do. I'm not supposed to be up here this much, but we did have an emergency. So Tom from Twin Cities Rise ended up with a medical emergency in the family. So he just reached out to us yesterday to say he wasn't coming. But fortunately, Evan Feinberg, who is going to serve as the person to introduce Tom, is going to take the slot. So I'm the Evan, Evan's the Tom, and it'll all work out. All right, so one of the things that Manisha mentioned and that we've all mentioned here is there's a lot of ways to solve problems. And one of the areas that we at the Roundtable really appreciate and which Stand Together champions is the role of civil society. How do nonprofits, volunteer associations, local leaders come together to solve the problems that are plaguing a community? And so Stand Together is an organization that you're going to hear about, which identifies, supports, and helps to highlight and promote some of the best social change agents that they can find. They're tackling all kinds of problems, not just the ones that we're here to talk about today, but of course that is a big part of their portfolio, but everything from criminal justice reform to foster kids, really who are the innovators that are coming together to really solve the problem from the ground up. So it's my pleasure to welcome Evan Feinberg, the Executive Director of Stand Together, who can not only play the Tom, but can talk about more than Twin Cities Rise and give you a good sense of how they are finding really exciting social change agents. Evan, thank you.
Thank you so much, Jill. All right. Well, in the spirit of the TED Style Talks, my goal up here today is to challenge this group to think really in an innovative and a big way about how we might solve some of the most intractable problems facing our country. And Adam last night in his remarks at Cafe Momentum, an organization that I'll get back to, he challenged us that really what the Philanthropy Roundtable is trying to do is to think smarter about philanthropy. So my challenge to you is to think about what the word smarter should mean about philanthropy. So there was a great Tim Ferriss podcast that I was listening to recently. It was featuring the former leader of the Google Moonshot division. And he was talking about the challenge of getting people to think about orders of magnitude change, 10x or much more. And the challenge of 10x change sounds really daunting and really difficult. But it's actually easier when it comes down to it than getting 10% more effective in what we do. Think about it. Today in philanthropy in America, in the social sector in America, there was one report a few years ago that showed there's about $100 billion spent on job training, career development, workforce development by private corporations and businesses across America today. This doesn't include philanthropy. There's essentially, there are 52 government programs spending about $18.6 billion every year trying to provide skills and workforce development and to train the workforce for the future. There's a ton of money and there are a ton of smart people all over the country, not just the folks in this room, that are thinking today, right now, about how we get smarter and how we get better at investing in solutions that will lead to better jobs, better careers, and what have you. And I'll tell you, I'm maybe a bit more provocative on this point than most. I do not think that we are solving the problem today. I think we are failing as a country, as folks that are focused on this. We are not there are some innovators in this room, don't get me wrong. They're doing some amazing things. But this problem is really significant. If there are 5 or 6 million people, 5 or 6 million jobs that folks aren't trained and capable of working in, if 1 in 3 people that want a job and want to work can't find meaningful work and therefore are dropping out of the labor force, we have significant problems that we must solve. So the purpose of my organization at Stand Together, which is broader than just this workforce problem, but it's one of the intractable problems that we're focused on investing in. The purpose of what we're doing, and I know that's why you are here, is because you want to think smarter about how to solve these really critical issues, and you don't just want to get 10% more effective, which means that you have to be smarter than all of those people that are trying to solve this problem, smarter than all of that money that's tackling this problem. You want to be smarter by thinking how to think orders of magnitude change, which means you can turn on a different part of your brain. How do we innovate? How do we think differently? How do we wipe the slate clean and think of something new? Because that's easier than being able to outsmart all those folks that are doing it today by doing it 10% more effective, 10% more efficient. We've got to get orders of magnitude better, which means we need to turn on our entrepreneurial mindsets to really blow the top off of these problems in America. All right, so that's my prompt, and I'll tell you a little bit about what we're doing at Stand Together to solve that problem, and hopefully it'll inspire you to think about how you might focus on these problems in new and different ways. So my organization, Stand Together, is part of a group called the Seminar Network. The Seminar Network brings together hundreds of the most successful business leaders in America, the most successful business leaders in American history. It's led by Charles Koch from Koch Industries. And that group invests in what we believe will drive social change. By social change, we mean that if free people are capable of extraordinary things, that each and every person has unique gifts and talents, that when they can tap into those talents, they can contribute to others and lift themselves up and make the country a better place. So the goal of social change is how do we remove barriers to opportunity to allow them to do that? Our network invests across different institutions, K through 12 education to create lifelong learners, higher education to create an engine of ideas and progress through higher education institutions, in principled business, in policy, criminal justice reform, occupational licensure reform, tax reform, healthcare policy, you name it, our network is engaged there. A lot of ink gets spilled on sort of the work that the Koch network does in that space. And then finally in communities, which is what Stand Together does. And the way we approach the problem is slightly differently. We don't believe that it's easy to circle a city and solve all the poverty problems in that community. We don't believe that you can circle an issue and say, hey, we're going to solve foster care in America or solve workforce development. It's really difficult. So what we do is we invest in social entrepreneurs, organizations, people that are capable of delivering personal transformation in the lives of the least fortunate. We're focused on poverty at Stand Together. And when they've got that secret sauce, when they're doing something novel, we say, how can we invest in them to help them grow, scale, and replicate their efforts so that they can transform more lives? We were at Cafe Momentum last night for dinner. They are one of the catalyst organizations in Stand Together's network. It's an amazing restaurant, and 100 kids a year are getting the services that are transforming their lives and giving them the skills to join the workforce. Well, the question is, how do they open up the second restaurant? How do they open 25 restaurants? Can they? Well, we provide the risk capital and the management training and expertise to help them think about that next step. So in the workforce space, we're investing in, I was just with a group called Chrysalis in LA earlier this week. I walked the streets of Skid Row. If you ever want to see some of the most dire poverty in America, walk the streets of Skid Row. But their workforce solution through wonderful case management, character development, and then transitional work is allowing the most chronically jobless, homeless, recently incarcerated individuals to find and retain meaningful work with phenomenal job outcomes 6 months into the future. There's a number of organizations that have similar models to Chrysalis around the country, Twin Cities Rise being something similar that Tom was going to speak to today. We're invested in Rising Tide Capital, which is equipping low-income individuals with the skills of entrepreneurship so they can create their own jobs with amazing results where 92% of the businesses that they help to start are still in business 5 years into existence, way better than the industry average. We believe that there are amazing social entrepreneurs doing this work and that we can grow and scale those efforts across the country, build a network of those, but it's going to require risk capital. So the way we invest at Stand Together is the way that venture capitalists might invest. We've got a 6-month training and education program where we teach them our management philosophy and help network them together. That's sort of an incubator of sorts for lots of organizations. Those that are already of the maturity level and capable of sort of a venture investment, think a group like Cafe Momentum that might want to take the risk capital. They've proven they can do it in one restaurant, but it's not proven whether they can do it in 2 or 10. We might make an investment along with some organization development services to see their growth. And then if there's an organization that has proven that they can grow, and the question now is how many markets and how sustainable and how can they bring down costs to make it even more scalable, we provide the sort of equivalent of a Series B funding round. We call it a social change investment and help to see an answer to a problem scale and help transform more lives. And I'll bring this back to what I think is required here, because while we're deploying lots of capital on this front at Stand Together, I don't believe we're ever going to be able to deploy enough capital to scale enough organizations to solve all these problems together. So what we need to do together, both with the efforts of Stand Together and the work of all of you, is we have to build a movement in this country. We have to inspire broader social change. And we believe that happens with the value unit of Transform Lives, because we believe that every transformed life is a catalyst for social change. right? Every single person whose life is transformed becomes a better neighbor, a better employee, a better employer. Now that has a ripple effect that goes well beyond. Chad last night talked about how each of the 100 kids that they are working with really transform the lives of about 2,500 people in the community. We believe that at Stand Together. But perhaps more importantly, we believe that each and every transformed life is a witness and a testimony that change is possible in their life, and it's an example to others that they can change their lives. It's also a witness and testimony to people who might be walking by the person who's homeless on the corner, or they might encounter the person who's struggling in their career, and they take personal responsibility to say, I know that change is possible in their life, and it's time to make a difference in their life, and I need to take personal responsibility for being that change in their life. That's the work that we care about at Stand Together. And then finally, we believe that transformed lives are a catalyst for social change because it creates what I would call social change entrepreneurs. People who have a better understanding of how to solve the problem, not because they've just read it in a book, not because they've studied the problem, which I think those things are important, but because they have suffered the problem themselves, they have come out the other side. Their personal knowledge equips them to be an expert on helping others to solve the problem for themselves. This is how business entrepreneurship happens. People confront a problem in their own life, they build a solution to that problem, and then they share that solution with others, and they make a profit. Social change entrepreneurs who confront a problem in their life, they have success solving that problem, are then uniquely capable of going back into their communities and helping others to overcome those problems. So we invest in social entrepreneurs delivering transformation because we believe it has this ripple effect that creates more social change entrepreneurs who then are, through both their witness, their testimony, and their direct work, will transform more lives, and that ripple effect can change our country. So I believe the work that so many of you in this room are doing is creating that ripple effect every single day. So thank you for all that you're doing. And if I can leave you with that one challenge, it's don't just get 10% more effective at what you do, because that will be really, really hard. Spend the time here this weekend hearing from experts and practitioners and really capable people thinking about how can we innovate and create much bigger and more lasting change than we already are today. So with that, I'll say thank you and be ready to talk later.